Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the Fire Emblem 3 Houses Blue Lions Maddening Mode low turn count playthrough. I'm Mekkah, I'm not playing, I'm just commentating. Before we get into 3 paralogs and an actual chapter, I'm going to go over some Monastery off-screen things that we've done. We have reached Professor level A, and that means we can now set up 3 adjutants instead of 2, which will help us distributing XP to people who can't fight as well. We have recruited a lot of people. We recruited Linhardt by reaching a B support and bringing him to join us this month. We recruited Manuela and Hanneman by having Byleth reach level 15. We recruited Petra for having 10 dexterity and C riding. Or in this case, she was recruited with C plus support and D plus riding. We recruited Ferdinand by reaching 10 dexterity and C heavy armor. And we recruited Cyril by, being level 10. Linhardt is mostly useful for being a primary warper, and by recruiting him now, we're going to be able to reach A Faith for warp, as well as level 20 for bishop access, before we have to do the Dorothea Ingrid paralog. Manuela is going to be useful for our 3rd warper, and she's also going to be helpful for getting the 2nd Dance of the Goddess battalion in the Enbar chapter, the Opera Volunteers Company. Hanneman, we mostly just recruited him because we're going to be playing the Hanneman and Manuela paralog, and by recruiting him, we can give him a stride gambit. Petra is mostly here because she can help us route maps using Battalion Wrath and having generally good stats, particularly in speed. Ferdinand is recruited because we want him to be a paladin in his paralog. And Cyril isn't actually going to be very useful for this playthrough, but if you're playing casually or casually efficiently, then he can be helpful for being a filler wyvern because he can reach level 20 pretty easily, and he can make use of either point blank volley or vengeance. So he can be good, he just isn't going to be very relevant for this one. Also, in this playthrough, we recruited Bernadetta, and you might have expected her to be a vengeance bot for this playthrough. This is something that I've been advocating a lot on my channel, but actually we turned her into a dancer because she's the only dancer we can get that has pass. Claude and Anna get pass too, but they can't become dancers. And she's also going to be tutored to A plus riding for movement +1, and she has been working on just riding for quite a while actually. With that out of the way, I should probably also mention that we cooked speed +2 for this month. Now, let's get into the actual paralogs. So this chapter goal isn't too complicated, it's another kill boss map, so all we have to do is get Byleth over with our numerous mobility options and just crit kill him on enemy phase with the killer bow. The difficulty in this chapter is getting treasure. There is an experience gem guy that starts near Manuela that we want to kill, and there is also a rapier near the boss that we also want to get from an enemy drop. So the way we're going to do that is Manuela actually crit kills this guy on her first attempt. We actually would have way more preparation for this than it showed. We cooked +2 speed, among other reasons, so that Manuela doubles that guy, so she only needs 1 crit kill, or she only needs to crit once out of 2 attacks. We also could have deployed another flyer like Leonie or Shamir in Sylvain's spot, and then they would have had enough movement to reach that guy with a bow and chip him in before Manuela kills him. So we also didn't need to deploy Flame for this chapter. We actually get enough movement on Byleth with just Bernadetta and Scythia and the Stride. And that would have had her reach that spot that she does for the killer bow attack on the archer by herself, so we didn't need the rescue, and that could have let us get another unit in as well. The experience gem is very useful for reaching level benchmarks, particularly level 20. That lets units certify for the Wyvern Rider class, which is a very important class to get for a couple of units, but it works for other classes as well, like Bishop. We're going to trade that around a lot, that's why we convoy warped it as soon as we could. And the rapier is more for reliability reasons in the Sylvain paralog. Its accuracy is basically unparalleled as a sword, so that's why that one is important to get. Casual playthroughs, they mostly just use it for cavalry and armor knight effectiveness, and just being a good sword in general. So Sylvain is just going to get some self-improvement with swift strikes, as he usually does, and then Byleth just needs to crit kill this boss on enemy phase, and that is going to be the Manuela Hanneman paralog completed in 1 turn and less than 2 minutes. I've seen longer runs of this chapter, that's for sure. Now let's move on to the next one. So the next paralog we're doing is actually the Sothis paralog, which is a pretty tough one. I think most players end up playing this casually. They kind of defensively go through it, which is a very big pain in the butt. You kind of have to route the map that way. The way we're playing it, we're actually going to 1-turn it, which is very tricky because the boss starts in the bottom right of the map. Byleth is in a faraway starting position, so we have to rely on all of our other units to kill him in 1 turn. And he has 3 health bars, all with a lot of HP, and of course a lot of defense. The treasure in this map is very easy to get. It's just a knowledge gem in a chest that Flame can get on turn 1. We could have convoy warped this to Byleth and gotten use of it right away, but kind of forgot to. Oh well. Leonie starts off by flying past the giant hawk guarding the boss. This is the main choke point, is just getting used to this guy at all is super hard when there's a guy in the way. But when you have flyers, you can get shots at him like this. Leona did Break Shot to lower his defense by 5, and then Shamir did Monster Blast, which takes away an entire tile because it's effective against him. Now we can exploit that one tile several times if we position units correctly. Felix starts off with a 4-range curved shot crit to get rid of the first phase. He can fire at 4 range because he's an archer, so that's +1 range, and then curved shot is another extra point of range. Then Bernadetta can dance him, and from here we actually want to use Felix's spot with Dimitri next. So what we're going to do is we're going to move Lysithea over and use Warp on Felix to get him in range of fighting the boss at close range, using the Thunderbrand that he still has. Now that Felix is going to be out of the way, we can have space for Dimitri to go in there instead. Now Dimitri, his starting position is forced, and so he cannot reach the tile that is between Bernadetta and Lysithea here. So what we have to do is we use the Do to smite him over downwards and have Dimitri get another killer bow shot in. We traded away the killer bow from Felix for that exact reason. We get another killer bow crit. This is the last unreliable crit that we need to kill this boss. Felix is actually only 7 damage short of 1 round in the final health bar, so we need either 2 Crystal Fraudaris procs or 1 crit. There could have been other ways to get this number, like feeding in Rocky Burdocks, but this is reliable enough. Again, it's only 1 turn. So yeah, that is the Sothis Paralogue completely cleared in 1 turn. I never thought I'd see the day, but there you have it. Let's move on to the next one. You know, we've done a couple of fairly simple kill boss maps. How about we've mixed it up a little bit with a super difficult route map instead? Chapter 9 features several demonic beasts, several dragon demonic beasts with a lot of bulk, 2 health bars each, and 1 to range to make them really difficult to kill on both player phase and enemy phase. We have some measures to take care of them. The most important weapon on our side is actually the ability to get critical hits. We're going to need quite a lot of them. Thankfully, a lot of them are like in the 50s. But it still takes quite a bit of rigging to get through them, unfortunately. The first one we get is with Sylvain using Ruined Sky. This is the combat art that's associated with the Lance of Ruin and Sylvain himself and his crest. Very good because it's effective against dragons. And that's going to be another theme in this chapter, is dragon effective weapons. We also use the Seraphim, monster effective spell on the Lysithea once again. And we also use the Blessed Lance and a combat art like Bane of Monsters on Petra with the Killing Edge. Also make sure we break these monsters' health bars as soon as possible. Most of the combat is going to be carried by Dimitri in this chapter. In the northern part of the map, he needs to absolutely maximize his strength for this whole chapter. That means putting him in Brigand instead of Archer to make sure that he has the most strength modifiers possible to kill these beasts through their armor with a critical hit. If he gets his strength sealed by a monster, which happens if he gets hit, then he loses the ability to want to KO them, so we absolutely cannot afford to have that happen. And we also want to preserve his battalion anyway, so that's why we're rigging a dodge when he's facing like 38 displayed. And we're Divine Pulsing back and doing other things we would already have done. Bottom right, we have Hilda and Petra taking care of that monster over there. Hilda is using the Blue Lion's Bruh to make sure she hits her Fusillade, or try to make sure anyway. Fusillade is very efficient at cleaning up this monster's barriers, and that means we can pick up like at least 1 Umbral Steel in this chapter. For the other monsters, we kind of have to focus on getting their health down, so this is the only one we're going to be getting. Also worth noting, Dimitri has Linhardt with him as an adjutant. Linhardt has the experience gem to maximize the amount of levels that he gets. We need to get into level 20 for Bishop. Since Dimitri seems the most combat out of anyone, it only makes sense to have Linhardt with him. Other than that, we have Ingrid accompanying Sylvain for attack support, and the same goes for Flame, reclass the Pegasus Knight as an adjutant to Byleth for the same reason. And on the left side, we have Byleth, Felix, and Lysithea to take care of the last pair of monsters that end up over there. Pretty simple because Felix's offense is absolutely ridiculous. Lysithea, of course, have access to Seraphim for effective damage, and Byleth in general is just a really good unit. So that first one is no problem, and the second one ends up over there being baited by Byleth at 1 to range. And this chapter also features Gerald, but he doesn't get a chance to move because we're actually going to beat this chapter within 2 turns, and you know, Gerald gives you a bit of a head start before he starts rushing in, thankfully. We also have some NPCs to protect technically, but because we were so proactive in baiting all these beasts, we never end up making it to the students. It's funny that on Maddening they are actually buffed to the point where they can take a hit from the monsters, and then they'll use a healing item on themselves to make sure that they don't die. So in a casual playthrough you can kind of take your time for this. On hard mode, it's actually possible to one-turn this chapter, and Velkama has actually done this, and their strategies were very instrumental to plan this clear out. So that was very helpful, but unfortunately because the Maddening Mode adds 2 new demonic beasts, and because they also become a lot bulkier, it's actually not possible to beat this chapter in 1 turn on Maddening, at least not without a bunch more grinding. Then maybe it would be possible if we allowed auxiliary battles and stuff like that, but the way your team is, a 2 turn is the absolute maximum, so we're going to go for that. Or minimum, depending on how you view it. So we get our only Umbral Steel with Fusillade, and then we're gonna have Petra rig another critical hit. Most of the critical hits that we get are in the 50s, roughly. Dimitri has 100% thanks to Battalion Wrath on enemy phase, but other than that, it's clear it's far from reliable. But it's not as bad as it could be, and we do have like a pretty generous number of Divine Pulses at this point.
Leave it to me. I will get the victory.
And some units don't really need critical hits. For example, Byleth against this monster could use a Train Lance, go for 22% critical hit on 2 hits. But she just takes out a Steel Lance from the convoy, and she just gets a 2-shot instead. That's pretty clean. And from there, all we have to do is finish him out with Felix and the Thunderbrand. We're gonna need a bit more help than that in the north, though. As good as Dimitri's enemy phase is, he can't do it all on his own, partially because these monsters will sometimes move out of their way to use their AoE attack, which cannot be countered, and partially because it's just a bunch of things to get through. But we do have a Leone and Sylvain available still, so Leone is going to make use of Monster Piercer and Blast Lance to get some effective damage and break another shield on this monster, and that allows us to get Sylvain in for another Ruined Sky attack for a massive 64 damage, and that gets rid of the last monster that we need to get rid of in the middle. There's one left on Dimitri's side. We could just gang up on him with Dimitri and Sylvain. And that is basically going to be this chapter cleared. Pretty rough. Definitely one of those chapters that we need to reach an important benchmark for. We actually made sure to have Dimitri reach its benchmark through gardening. From here on out, we mostly need to use gardening to get defense stat boosts for Byleth for Hunting by Daybreak. But this energy drop is also going to help us reach strength benchmarks in the future. So let's move on to the last paralogue of this video, and that's the Shamir Alois paralogue. So that's enough difficult route chapters for today. We're going to go back to boss killing here. This map is kind of like supposed to be a defend map where you defend the town from the enemies. If they spend 5 turns in there, you actually get a game over if they get past the lit up squares. So defending them is what you're kind of supposed to do, but they still added the boss kill objective, so we are going to be doing the good old thing of getting Byleth over to the boss and ending the map in 1 turn. Everyone else just kind of gets some XP, and even though we only have 1 turn, we're able to get a fair bit of it done. Felix, Dimitri, and Sylvain are in the south, getting whatever they want, chipping down some battalions and getting some kills, getting the experience gem to get extra levels from that. And up north is where the more interesting stuff happens in that regard. So we don't need Warp for Byleth to reach the boss. It is sufficient to use Stride and a Dance from pretty far away, and that's basically it. Which means just about everyone else can focus on just getting XP. And the first thing we do is we use the Scythia to use Warp on Linhardt of all people. And we're going to put him in the middle of that formation so that Shamir, who is equipped with the Stride Battalion, can hit all of them with Stride without Linhardt having to use his turn beforehand. Now in this parallel we also have access to Alois, but we haven't recruited him, which means that he's kind of like a mix between a green unit and a blue unit. We can control him, but he doesn't gain XP, but he does auto-level like a maddening enemy, so he does a ton of damage to this one enemy, to the point where Linhardt, even though he's using a 1 might Nosferatu, can kill him off. From here all we have to do is move Byleth far away, or like pretty far in the spot where that enemy was, get some chip in, and then cancel to a spot where Bernadetta can dance her and then put her in range of the boss effectively. That does leave that Assanis is at low HP, which conveniently lets us kill him with Annette. We love to use Annette for rallying when we can, but she also needs the XP to reach level 10 before or after the time skip, level 7 before the time skip. She auto levels 3 levels, so that's why we use a Thyrsus skill with Wind there to get XP where we can. And then we dance with Bernadetta. We could one round the boss with like the Thunderbrand or something, but we actually get more XP if we hit him with chip XP and then on enemy phase we kill him with the XP. So we're going to use a Gambit assembly in this case to get a battalion level up as an authority experience, drag him up, and on enemy phase he moves before anyone else, even before any of these ambush reinforcements. And, well, my ambush reinforcements, I guess. And then we kill him on enemy phase, and that's this chapter completed in 1 turn. If you enjoyed this, stay tuned for more, and if you want to watch more LTC content, check out Don Don's channel, where I'm co-commentating his FE7 run. Peace out, and goodbye.